imagine California and the gold rush that is generated by AI. Welcome to the Infinite Creative Podcast. My name is Fitz, and I got my amigo over here.
And I'm Sean. Welcome, everybody, to another podcast of AI Crazy Misfortunes and the World of Design. Thank you, one and all.
Yeah, I'm doing great, and our viewership just dropped by everything. But yeah, major news came out yesterday, and I think it's worth mentioning because we all know, I think we talked like 30 episodes ago about like AI doing video, and it's not that great. And I don't know if you saw that meme with like Will Smith eating spaghetti, and you know, it was absolutely not good. And there were some really funny AI ads out. And yeah, yesterday, Sam Altman and AI released Sora. And it's not really released to the public, but they released like the footage that they have from the program and how great it is. And it's like, okay, I'm out of a job. So this command was actually really cool. They are like typed in the prompt about like, hey, imagine California and the gold rush, and now you get a cool drone flight over California. And yeah, obviously this is like crazy because like the Riverside preview is not looking that great. But if you pull that up on your computer, it will look amazing. And it's like, what? That is generated by AI with a simple command. And yeah, that's where we are. So why would you pay like a videographer or a drone pilot to capture like a cool house on the cliff when you just type in like a prompt and you get that for a free or a cheap subscription? And yeah, that's where we're heading to. Sean, what are your thoughts on that? Mr. I love AI.
I'm Mr. I love AI. Wow. I think that this is going to happen in every industry. I think we knew this was coming. I think you had talked about this almost a year ago about how this is obviously the next step. You know, we've also seen AI create websites not well, but I'm waiting for that to start to happen too, where it's actually pretty sophisticated websites built with AI. So this was obviously going to be the next step. I think just like most things with AI, I think it's just the results are surprising, right? That it's this good. You can't see very many flaws in it. It's pretty incredible. So where are we? Like, what is the next step? I don't know. I mean, it comes down to, yet again, who has the better creative vision, who can put in the right words, who understands the audiences better. Now, you know, right there we saw clips of things. So maybe, you know, is it about being a better composer in the sense of like coming up with composites and what actually is a video and what is the rhythm of a video and the story being told, you know? AI maybe isn't doing quite that yet, but like, you know, yet again, 10 years from now, is it then doing that part as well? It's...
Well, that's not a question. The question is just like how soon it's coming, because like, it's crazy. I want to know your honest opinion about that. Was that shocking? Would you imagine if you would scroll Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, that some of those video clips could be AI generated if they're moving like that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have guessed that, I think. You know, you've seen recent things like we've seen the posts about the Eiffel Tower on fire and stuff, and some of those have been in motion, and I think that was surprising and how real that could look. And that was just done with AI. And so, it is shocking for sure. It is definitely shocking, but it sucks because we live in a world of shock now. So it's like it's another thing obviously that it can do better. So so it's weird. It's we can train AI on anything and it's gonna just knock it out of the park, it seems like. So yeah.
So I had a thought when I saw like those videos, and I was like, it generates videos better than I dream. Like the quality, you know, and the detail and the generations are better than what I personally, you know, remember of my dreams, because my dreams, they are like, you know, I don't know how you dream, but in the end, it's like there's a certain amount of detail, you know, in your dreams, and you're going through a story, and there's usually one focal point, and the rest doesn't really make sense. This is already better than my dreams, you know, like the stuff in the background makes sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting way, I guess, of putting that. So this thing is better than your dreams. I mean...
like, better than my brain in imagining things more logically.
Well, you know what that's interesting is so back in the Renaissance era, you know, they had hyper-realism. And so the idea of hyper-realism is it's more real than real life. And so what you're essentially describing is hyper-realism. So really, I guess the question is, we have the Vision Pro, we have things like that, and we'll get to that later in a second, is when things get so high resolution, are we back in the hyper-realism era where we're like, things are more real than reality? I mean, it's just an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I liked it. It's an interesting concept. I was just like baffled, because this is just like the first gen, and the next 3 generations will drop in the next 6 months, how it's evolving and how fast AI is evolving. They're dropping every 3-6 months to like a new updated version. And then it's always like, oh, just 4 times better, and it's like, oof.
Yeah, I know. It really does make me miss even just 10 to 20 years ago already, and makes me really sad that I didn't, get more profit and I didn't go bigger. And
True.
Actually did, because it's like, dang, like it felt competitive then. It feels crazy competitive now.
Yeah.
The thing that's making my business go well, and I think for you, is just the human aspect and being a partner and using all these tool sets. But I can't lie that it's like, it feels like the workload is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking for us.
Yeah, but feels more and more in a way, because I don't know, like at least in videography, everybody has now a freaking opinion about everything, It's like, it's not even that they can do what they want. So, but they want what they can imagine in a way, like we all have like a clear vision. We have clear opinions, and some of them are like well-founded. But also, there's reasons why you shouldn't do certain design decisions, and a beginner does not know that, but he wants it. And, he thinks he's the expert because he saw so many things. And this is a weird time.
That's a great topic. I love that you brought that up. I mean, a lot of people are just starting to understand the visual verbiage of the world. Social media has made it a lot easier to also get access to things. Like in my world, a visual, like brand identity design, for example. People now, when I design logos, they have examples of logos they like. They kind of know logos and what they like and hate about logos. They think they understand brand design. It's really, they just know enough to be dangerous. And those sometimes are like the worst clients, the ones that know enough to be dangerous, because they do have taste. Like we've talked about taste in the past episodes of like, they've developed this taste. However, they haven't gone to the next level, which is, it's not about your tastes, it's about your audience's tastes, and it's about the quality of the work itself and the originality of the work itself. And so you are in this scary place too, where now people believe that they have the taste just as good as a logo designer, if not maybe just marginally less. And at the same time have access to AI, which will develop a mark for them that is pretty solid. It's maybe not as good as like a designer yet again, but it gets you 80 to 90% the way there. And so that's going to start happening, that interaction. And
that's already happening. I feel
scary.
like.
Well, and it's not happening. And the sad part is it hasn't even blown up yet. I think this isn't even the majority of people. I still think the majority of people are just now starting to use ChatGPT. Like we're talking about like just everyday people.
The laptops.
Yes, exactly. And so, I think we're not even in it yet. I think like give it 10 years, give it, all the young kids growing up are going to use this. So, young people I've already found are some of the hardest clients to have because and we're young people, that we don't have money, that we're very self-educated, and that we've grown up in technology, so we're very comfortable to going to technology when we're in doubt. So it makes us really crappy clients. It really does. So when someone is to sell us on something, we're like, well, I'm going to do a Google search. I'm going to price gouge this shit to the very end of the existence. And it makes us really hard to be clients. And so that's why a lot of my clients, frankly, have been at minimum our age. I've never done anyone younger. But most of my people are like older people because they understand that they don't have the time. They understand that they don't have the time to learn something, and they don't want to learn something, frankly. And, so I think things with AI, it opens up the door of like, well, why don't you just do it yourself? Well, why don't you just do it yourself? And what's weird about it is I feel like we're going to become more and more secluded, even in the development of companies. Companies used to be such a community thing of like, I'm trickling down. And
I just have like such a weird metaphor in my head. Sorry for saying and interrupting. We all hear probably about that fury, about that ever-expanding universe, everything gets farther and farther apart. And I feel like the more we develop and the more technology we get, even we are getting more farther and farther apart. You being like in that other room, by yourself, doing your thing by yourself. Now we will put on VR classes, being by ourselves, being more disconnected from everybody else. And we will be living in our own small universe by ourselves. And we will distance ourselves more from ourselves in a way, So it's like we're less connected with ourselves. This is now a weird thought that I just had, but I'm just like, it really feels like the more you develop, the more disconnected you become but the better the technology.
Well, yeah, we're losing trust. I think I keep running into that with people where I have to kind of remind people, especially people that have been wronged by other people, that you've got to lead with trust. You have to start to trust people again. I mean, it's something I've had to start to do, where it's like I've had to start being like, you know what, this guy is not a solid thing. But I need help. So like, give him the project, give him a shot. Trying to develop that. I think that's the scariest thing. Is I think we're losing trust in humans and we're gaining trust in just technology. That's when you see people that would rather just use chat, copy, paste in, boom. That's full trust of technology over humans right there, even themselves. And I still am like, I use AI, obviously. He said I'm like the king of AI or whatever, but I use it, but I never use it just raw. Like it's always like edited. And I think that's okay. I think what scares me is when people don't want to edit it. Full lean into technology, full lean into have it do it for me.
Yeah. So on that note, obviously you want to change what ChatGPT 3 is giving you, or 4 or whatever. But now, yesterday, there was a lot of news in the AI world. Sorry for going into it again. But apparently they gave ChatGPT 3 or 4 or whatever, ChatGPT, memory. So you can train it now in a way where it's like, oh, Sean does not like this speaking style. He does always make this change. You can now prompt that in, and it's like, yeah, so this is now the new thing.
Well, we've been talking a lot about vision, and we will get that in a second, of how they need to create apps, but ChatGPT is essentially doing that. Our OpenAI is doing that, where they've created the App Store, and so what they've done is they've made it a lot easier for developers to create a GPT app. So essentially, they've made that a kind of an open, available thing. I think you do have to pay as a developer to get access to that, but that just the idea now that developers have their hands on this type of technology, so they can start to develop that type of thing. So it doesn't surprise me that there's memory now. It doesn't surprise me now that you can kind of start to train it. I think that will be the thing in the next 5 to 10 years, is we're all going to more and more become used to that, the idea of you training your own AI, which is cool, because I think that's where the interface becomes really usable.
I feel like you have like weird time frames in your head. 5 years. It has been 1 year or so, and we're already here. And it's just like going faster and faster. So I feel like, next year.
Well, I think we think that we're like everyday people. When I say this, I'm talking everyday people. I'm not talking about the people that are nerding out about it. I think the nerds think that they're plentiful, but they're not as plentiful as they may think if you walk out there on the street. I think those people are 5 to 10 years. We're probably a year away from being able to, you and I already talking about things that we've already trained that we use daily in our lives. I think we're probably maybe a year away from that.
Would you consider shifting careers for AI? Because obviously now the painting is on the wall, we're working at the Chili's. They have now a tablet, and it does the server job, and you're still bringing the water and you're still maybe getting a tip, but you see the writing on the wall. There's a tablet, and now there's ask the tablet any question and it will answer like in a ChatGPT role play style, like, oh, welcome to Chili's, and you get your personal bot. Obviously you cannot compete with that. So would you consider shifting gears to a different field to, get a little step farther away from the coming doom?
From the coming doom.
I don't know how to call it, but for some industries, it's like doom, because it's like, we don't really need that. We just have it because it's nice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, very complicated question that is.
Sorry for being so existential.
No, okay, so the reason I'm thinking about, so back, we've talked about my background of I've resisted technology in the past, and then 10 years later I end up adopting it anyway. So I'm trying to I want to hesitate before I say oh no, I'm not going to go down that route. I won't be in the AI world developing AI stuff, and then
you don't want to be 10 years later.
10 years later, I'm actually now I'm doing it, and I'm late to the game. Actually, they're already on to the next thing.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I think it's inevitable that it's all going to be part of our lives, right? I used to just putting in your tools, so I already see it just kind of leaching into my world anyway. I almost don't have a choice to use AI or not. Now, do I develop things for AI? I think so on a small level. If you're a web designer, you kind of already understand how you can already program things like a chat widget on a website that answers questions. That's been around for about a decade even. at its most. So I've already done AI, you can say, in a way. It's just very
Yeah.
basic and not very fun AI. So I would say that, yeah, I'll probably be developing some things with AI in the future. Will I ever go full lean in on AI and be an AI developer? I don't know. I don't see that. What I do see, and this could be our segue to our next topic, is spatial computing, though, and the idea of that really gets me excited. I mean, I think the idea of what happens with all these animations, interactions, sensory things, how does that get better over time, and how can I be part of that, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the Vision Pro. Let's talk about spatial computing. So,
Yeah, I mean, like, this is the next step, like everybody's talking about it, like, oh yeah, I want to have overlays, I want to have graphics there, I want to see things I like. And it's kind of funny because, like, when you saw the Apple Vision avatar that they make from your scan, it looks 10 times worse than like an AI generated picture. So it's like they could have used AI, described you as a person, and it would look better. It's like really like super disappointing,
Oh, that's interesting. Well, who else was disappointed by it? Mark Zuckerberg, apparently.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. They're very rare, by the way. Usually you don't have another technology person coming out and saying, this is kind of crap.
I really liked, though, how he did it. He was not like completely saying it was crap. He was like doing like let's do a fair comparison. Things I like and things I don't like, and then it's like, yeah, we're better.
Yeah. Because you're right. He did like some of the features of it. He did think it was very interesting how it it has a higher resolution, but other than that, it's not comfortable. It's not really. It doesn't have that much of an immersive library. The content library is deeper on his stuff. So
yeah.
It's interesting that he came out and he was kind of like, this really isn't that great. And it was kind of funny because I think we were all kind of waiting to see like what was he going to say, right? Like he's been leading the charge for about 10 years in the VR world. So of course, you knew he had to almost say something like that. I was trying to come out and essentially push him right out of his own lane.
There was actually also another news article about like the Apple Vision Pro. There's a lot of people who are returning it. And even I know people who were returning it because it's great, but it's...
Yeah.
To say, it's like a fancy, I see the Vision, I cannot do anything with it, so it goes back to the Apple Store. And because Apple has like a really good return policy, everybody of the influencers currently is just like, yeah, let's send it back.
So for all of you guys out there, if you want some cheap gear, make sure to be looking at the refurbished store. Apparently going to get that Vision.
I don't know if it's cheap because even Apple's refurbished is still super expensive.
I know I shouldn't even say that. But anyway, it does get me excited though. The spatial computing does get me excited because when I think if we were going to have some kind of creative ideation of like fits, like people don't go to movie theaters. How do we get people into movie theaters again? Like how do we make it exciting?
That ain't happening.
He would say that ain't happening. But like, really, it's like, well, could we overload them in sensory wise? Like instead of having a fucking screen and you have like people sitting in front of you and around you, can you like, I'm obviously really, really passionate about this. But if like around you, things are like floating around and you're getting, is that more interesting and fun? Does that now break you looking at the screen? If you go to a concert and you see crazy visuals happening all around you.
It's like, going to a brothel and they have a TV there and it's like, oh, you get an extra service and you're watching TV, sensorily overloads. I'm like, we've been there. We already made things nicer, than they actually are. And yeah, I don't think like right now it's a super weird thing because like, yes, you could make like the VR experience of like watching a movie together. You put it on, I put it on, you're sitting right next to me. Now we're watching a movie together. Now we're socially bonding, but we're farther away, I feel like that will be a thing, but it's still not as like, intense and sensory overloading as like being in real life, because it is different. You're more aware about your surroundings when you're alone. You have like, you feel more, you see more, you notice more things because you're not distracted by other human beings. But that is also the sensation. If there's other human beings, you think less, you have that herd mentality where it's like, okay, I'm just going with the group versus like, do I actually really want to do this or do, you know what I mean?
Well, well, exactly. I've had this creative idea in my head for a while of like, what would this look like? Let's say like, so let's say we have, this is just worry about what medium this is. Let's say glasses. We have glasses. And let's say you walk around the regular world without glasses and it's actually very simplistic. There's not a lot of ads anywhere. There's actually less ads than there is now. There's no billboards. There's no anything like that. However, when you put on the glasses, now we have kind of this cool cyber kind of style that's on everything, and that's where the ads live. And so it's like this kind of interesting, could we simplify the real world by pushing some of that stuff into the digital world? I don't know. I just have these like interesting creative mind experience.
Yeah.
What does this all become?
Yeah, so I have a thought for that where it's like, you got to dream big. And if you dream big enough, other people's dreams fit in yours, and there's Meta. We're making the VR goggles. There's Apple. Let's make the VR goggles in our way, And there's like, Elon Musk, let's put a chip in your head, that you have a direct connection. You don't need the goggles. You still see that. The bad part about it is like, you want to have your O'Reilly playing in your head because, they paid for a sponsored spot in your brain. This is where we're going to. And it's like VR is just like, it will fall away when that Neuralink stuff is like the next level, if that makes sense. So it's like the future is weird. And I'm like, do we want to have the ads? I guess it gets to the point where it's like, yeah, we want to have this colorful world so that we can get ads really popping up nice and making everything cool, but
yeah,
where it's going it's very weird.
Oh, it is very weird. Yeah, I mean, because we're inching on the changing of humans as we know it, right? If we start to move into this digital world more and more, and what's interesting,
it's already happening. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, and like, where does it end? I think it always comes back to that question: where does this path end? Do we like what is the next cool thing? What is the next cool thing? And is it just become more and more digital? I almost like have this interesting thought that there's going to be an exodus at one point. Believe it or not, like an exodus of social media and maybe the internet as we know it, where a lot of people are going to be like, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to simplify. I'm over this. We just keep adding more and more and more tech on top of tech, and like I'm just over it. How about go watch a sunset? Like,
I feel like it's like in those movies where it's divided: the future people and then the peasants who live like monkeys in the sheds, and it's just like, yeah, I feel like we're already getting there, and it's like, give it 5-10 years, depending on how fast everything is evolving. SpaceX was launching like 4 rockets yesterday or the day before in one day. And the number is crazy. I'm just like, where we're going? What is happening? I'm just like, every day there's some crazy news and everything is going faster and faster. So I think like we will get a really cool dystopian future and, free to play right now. It just kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean, things are moving quickly, but it's always relative. I think wherever you are, life is moving quickly, right? The people that were in the Industrial Revolution, life moved really quickly for those people, and it was upsetting. That's the thing is, you see after these big technology changes, you do see a big usual depression or something that happens at the end of it. And in the Industrial Revolution, it was about people that the people that were good at turning bolts by hand and building things by hand. Well, now we have power tools. The first power tools ever, and we have now like the steam locomotive engine that's going to chip away through mountains and things like that, and a lot of people lost their jobs, and there was a Great Depression because of that. So I think, do we hit another Great Depression? I think that's something we all have to think about when we think about AI. Yeah.
I kind of want to talk about like what we should do, because like I said, like I had that thought about everything is expanding farther and farther away, and if we do an active job of like getting closer and closer to our friends community, and actually caring, we will be way more effective, because like we will be not as hardly impacted like the people who are living in isolation, who are like, let's say VR goggles 24/7, completely connected to the matrix, and being like not really knowing what's going on. But if you have the human interaction and you hang out and you build jobs, out of nothing, because that's kind of, something has to have value, and it's like we will find that value and we will figure out what has value in this new situation. And I feel like if we are close to communities and close to our friends and doing the efforts that everybody's not, then we will be able to like monetize, stick around, and still grow and being healthy in a way.
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the takeaway is like just pretend that you're in a village already and that the village needs you to do something, And if you're creative, just figuring out like how can you help the village, and as long as you can help the village will not let you,
Yeah.
die. They're going to keep you on, they're going to keep you fed, they're going to keep you housed. So that's the way I try to think of it. At the end of the day, is like as long as I provide value to people, they're going to keep me around. They don't want me to starve. So
Yeah.
and
That's very good analysis or analogy.
yeah. And so I don't know. I think, yeah, are we all in danger? For sure. With this AI, I would be lying. Every time we talk about this topic, I'm like, yeah, we definitely are in danger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's also, it pushes our craft. It just pushes it farther and farther. So really, if you're creative, it's not about, well, I can't do that anymore. It's like, well, then now that this is freed up by AI, because you can also use AI now, what can you do? What's the next level then, right? So if you're a logo designer and you've never been able to push the animation, well, maybe AI will take care of the design part, so that's faster now, so you can get to the animation part. Or, well, maybe now AI will take your logo and make an animation for you. And so it's like, don't lose your creativity. I guess that's my only piece of advice. If you're watching this, don't lose your creativity in this. If you start to feel like, wow, I just took creative shortcuts so I didn't have to think the creative thing, that's the bad part. The creating it is something,
Oh, yeah.
you should still think of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, Google Maps. It kind of takes away the creative driving, or the fun driving, because you don't think really about like where I'm going, what I'm doing, you just follow a route, and it's not like that you're driving for fun around the neighborhood. It's like, no, I need to get from A to B, and you get trained to only go from A to B. And it's like, yeah, why would I drive XYZ, where when you drive creatively, you're like, you get in love with the exploration and like, what is there? How does that look? Oh, is this route actually prettier? Now you don't even think about it. The only thing you think about is like, how do I get from A to B?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just how we're think. That's just how we are. We're programmed as beings that like to optimize the routes that we like to take. So yeah, if you find yourself getting that dopamine release because you're like, wow, DALL-E just spit out something exactly how I wanted it, or are you copy and paste from ChatGPT? Done. Wow, that would have taken hours. You have to resist that feeling of getting that dopamine hit again and again by optimizing and losing your creativity and losing your control, because it's going to hurt you in the conversations, right? Like, for example, you copy and paste something for a client, but then you and a client have a conversation, they're going to realize you're not as smart as everything you copy and pasted in. That's a problem. Now they don't trust you. Now you've lost trust. So AI is a tool for us to lose trust too. We have people. If we start to become these AI people that are not honest about using AI, we may start to lose trust once people smarten up more and more and more.
Yeah, but with that being said, let's switch to like a more happy, real topics. Like, what is Sean doing in this moment?
Well, yeah, so, not necessarily happy topic, but I wanted to talk about...
Dang it, I got you!
But, so I had my car broken into this last week. I was back in Colorado. It got broken into. It was kind of in the middle of the night. So what was interesting, though, is it's another... I'd like to always bring these stories up because this is something bad that happened, but, when you look at it, I was really lucky. So I actually had a neighbor who's like this kind of... he's from Detroit, and he's like, he's hard around the edges, and I've never said hi to him, but he definitely looks like one of those guys that could, alpha dude, you just don't want to mess with. So he actually saved my car from getting from stolen. So like he pulled a gun on the guy and everything.
Let's
and the
go.
guy like got in his car and like spun out and like hit the curb and everything. We heard all this happen in the middle of the night, so it kind of bummed me out, right? We were only in Colorado for a few days and someone tried to pop out the lock. But, I found the kind of positive in it that, I had this guardian angel guy that helped me so it didn't get stolen. But I guess the main takeaway I wanted the story was in that moment of like walking out in the car, and there's like the broken out lock and you're sad and we were going to go somewhere and do stuff instead of letting it destroy all that going out and doing stuff. And I called the insurance company, which it actually wasn't covered in this case because I had just downgraded the insurance. There's all these things that weren't working well for it. But I still was like, let's go, put tape over the hole, just make sure there's nothing important in the car. And was like, let's keep doing our day. And I think that's what I want people out there listening to this to like know is that when something interrupts your day, you're having a great day and the processor in your computer dies.
Yeah.
A lot of people like will be like, well, now the rest of the day is ruined and I'm going to be grumpy the rest of the day. I'm going to be mad the rest of the day. But like, try not to. If you can keep moving past it and just keep going, you're going to love it. Like the rest of the day, that day was a great day, and by the end of the day, that thing, while being a blip of bad, the whole rest of the trip was amazing. So that's kind of, I just want to say that story for people because it just happened. I just had that thought too recently of just like, when things happen to you and they come out of nowhere, and you're going to get that call that's crazy. Like you got that when your wife got her injury. You had this just like come out of nowhere, and you have to keep going. I think you have to keep moving, and I think that's where the good comes from.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to say that. I wanted to give a little good.
I mean, the lesson here is like, don't go to Colorado.
Well, he doesn't. I'm trying to get him work, and he won't come out to Colorado.
No, I'm coming for work, but I mean, like, St. Pete is where it's at. We got the sunshine, we got like the lizards, the palm trees, everything is good down here.
And my girlfriend's car's been stolen here too, but we won't talk.
No, that never happened. That's fake news.
But yeah, I want to say that right now I'm working at a standing desk. I hurt my back, so it's another thing of like just roll with the punches, right? At a standing desk. I'm working. I'm standing up. I had to skip a couple big networking things, which sucks. I have to kind of send them an email and say sorry for not coming to that. Missed something with you. Did you go into that lesson?
I don't get an email. So that is actually interesting. I want to dive into that. Like, so you're sending emails out for events where you don't go to?
Well, when I get put on the list, see, they're getting me in on the lists. I didn't go. Well, I went to the Zoom version of it, and I was the only one in the Zoom. It was kind of embarrassing, but they didn't do a great job of like streaming it. Like halfway through, they didn't realize they ended the stream. So
anyway. Should have hired a Fitz, with that, they would have it like top game. They would have like the graphics in the back.
Yeah, exactly. But just rolling with the punches, man. I think other than that, life's good. Business is good. I love that this podcast is bringing a good audience to us. I've had people reach out. It's been great, man. It's been all things.
Yeah.
How about you?
What does the Fitz does? Yeah, I do a lot of things. So my life is currently, it's iffy. I was like very busy. And then a lot of things just changed. Like for example, I had live streams scheduled, moved to the next month. Then another guy, he wanted to have a testimonial, got kind of broke, so he's not doing it. And we also don't offer really the discount because then I cannot recover from the discount, because then it's always that new price. What is a problem, So it's like, so a couple things failed, but I have like cool opportunities like coming up where I took out a new client, doing the reels and stuff. So that is good. So it's working well. His YouTube is popping off. And yeah, so far I'm happy, but I need more because it's the end of the month. No, it's not the end of the month. It's halftime. But yeah, we're on there. We need to fill the pipeline up so that we just make it till the end of the month, paying those bills.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and I kind of have this problem too, that like when you have all these possible clients, how long does it take on average, do you think, to get them from when you meet them to getting money in your account?
I mean, like, it's always different. I was like doing like, when I prepared my taxes, I basically wrote down, hey, how do I get the client? How I met the client. I did not really type that down, because that is a good metric, but usually it's like, okay, somebody has an idea, and if they're really curious about it and they really want to do it, they put money down instantly. It's like, oh yeah, I want to do a wedding. And I'm like, okay, I need to at least have 50% deposit or 100. Right now, I usually do like payment up front because I don't want to deal with it and run behind money because then I will be salty while doing the work, maybe worrying about like, maybe I'm not getting paid, and that just destroys the work ethic. It's like, no, you book me, and if I don't do the job, you get the money back. So that's kind of how I do it. So everything is like upfront. The last project was like maybe a week, so I was like, okay, I get the video ready by the end of the week, and he got like 3 videos, was super happy, got the Google review, everything was popping. So that's usually how it is, like for me at least. I do the pricing up front, and yeah, if there's problems, to get the money back, and yeah.
Nice. Okay. Well, yeah. And I say for anyone out there, I always tell people, if you're doing a project over $1,000, you should think about getting a deposit for sure. For that exact reason.
Well, get the whole money.
Well, and it just makes sure that they're in it too. If it's free, then they can be like, sure, I'll do it. Yeah. If they paid money, then they'll show up for the deadlines. They'll show up for the meetings because they paid money.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. So okay, so it sounds like you have 2 different camps of people though. You have one camp of people where you're kind of giving them ideas. You're saying, you know what you could do, you should do that. And then you have another camp of people that are like, hey, Fitz, we need this, we need that. What's the percentage breakdown, would you say, of the two? I'm just interested.
Yeah, so right now for me, all my clients, they basically have no idea, so it's like, I want video, and they don't know why they want video, what is the worst reason why you should get video, and then I have people who are like, I want to grow my social media, I want to do XYZ, and there's things that work, but they require a lot of work and effort. So I basically just guide them like, hey, you could produce like 30 videos and then you can post them on 7 platforms and maybe tanks on Instagram, TikTok, and whatever, but it will blow up on YouTube, But it's like the numbers game. Most people, they play, I want video, and then they just put it on one platform. So it's a little bit of consulting with like doing the work and guiding them like, hey, this matters and this doesn't really matter. Because like I have a client where I did the podcast for them and I did a live stream and I was like, hey, yeah, you should upload your reels to TikTok and you should upload them to Instagram. And now the TikTok is blowing up. And I'm like, yeah, it's not blowing up on Instagram, but hey, it's blowing up there. Because the results are completely different. It just takes time and work to actually do the steps, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it almost seems like you have like a plan that you go through and it's
there's a process. Yeah, I'm very passionate about it, and that usually leads to me getting hired, because they see like, wait a minute, you can do what with video, because there's lots of things you can do with it. And if they see the passions and I can demonstrate and show and like highlight, yeah, if you do XYZ, it will work out, then it's a no-brainer. Most people, they only know like parts of it and it doesn't really make sense, but if they know the other parts, then it makes sense. But you need to be like experienced and have like either a big following or have like a big runway to make it happen, but there's a path, if that makes sense.
Well, right. Well, it's showing value. Like, if you're not in an industry, like, for example, you have a hard time seeing value in websites sometimes, or we have to talk about, like, we have to talk through that. Like, I think it's like that, where people just don't see value in video because they're not in your world, and you have to educate them. You have to be like, well, no, here's all the use case of video. Like, no,
I believe in the value of websites. It's just like the website alone is like, it's really hard to get the traction because like, I think like 90% or if not more is consumed on like video, and the video is leading to the website. So you can have a nice website, but you need the traffic to go there. And you could get that with SEO and content on the website, but that is usually like, will be slept on, like not everybody's creating the content on the website, but the website looks good. That's at least like how I see it.
Well, yeah. Well, so for example, too, like websites, there's so many traffic sources for websites too. So it can be part of the business that it's not even being found online. Like I just did a website where all they do is they work with ServPro, which is, it's a company that does all of these different businesses, where it does like,
word of mouth, like basically
old stuff, things. It's like a huge national thing where it connects you with local contractors, but now they need to send clients to another company that does other stuff that's outside of ServPro. And so all of this website's getting direct referral. And so that SEO doesn't really matter. Other things don't really matter. But it still needs to inform, show legitimacy, get them through a pipeline.
Yeah, that's 100%.
So it's interesting. So that's the thing is with websites is they're just, as long as you angle something at it, it is useful. I also I've started to argue with people with websites, like even if you don't have an angle, you don't have something, it's still real estate. And honestly, it's cheap real estate and you might as well have it or someone else will take it eventually. So you get the names, get the area, at least have something set up, even if it's basic, because it's so cheap now to put up something basic. But to get back to kind of videos, I think it's the same thing in videos. I think it's the exact same truth where even if you don't have an exact use case for videos right now, you are still carving out real estate in the content world. You're still going out there and getting your opinion. And if you can get that posted somewhere, you've now grabbed that real estate, that leadership. Leadership.
I mean, that is like with content in general. Like if you write a good blog post, and you host it on X or whatever, that stands by itself and that will build a portfolio and that will build like, a following potential, or that will be seen, that could lead to traffic, and that could lead to be like, hey, let's sell in the comments, for example. Right. Everything is like so complex that you can like, you can build a portfolio on video, photo, text, and like website and good videos and good photos, they build trust.
Yeah, legitimacy. It comes
Yeah,
back
and
to
that helps the
legitimacy.
conversion rate, And I get the point of like, you need to have a good website, but it's also like it's like the word of mouth kind of sort of thing. If you close into the DMs or over phone, then it completely gets like bypassed. So you can bypass anything if you want to, but that is like the weird part about it, Obviously, it helps if somebody does let's do a background check, How does the website look like? Or let's do a background check. How does the IG look like? Or how's the X look like when you're like checking, is he a good writer? Is he a good blogger? Because that is like where it shows like.
Yeah. Well, and it's just these are all just multiple facets towards success, right? So in my world, you can make the same argument of like, well, Sean, your website, your own personal Sean Craig creative website would perform better with the video, So it's all these things of like, well, yeah, the more of these things that you hit, the better. I think we just have to somehow figure out how does that plug into the client's world. I think, and so a lot of these conversations you have, these first conversations. You have to give a little bit away for sure. You have to kind of give them the kind of idea of like, well, what you could try is this and this and this. And then you kind of bring them in. But what's interesting, so I guess why I asked how long is your onboarding process is, the thing I've been trying to get better at is how do I condense that to be quicker? So can I have 1 hour meeting where we really hit the points quickly of like, what does this look like? What is the expectations? What are the goals and metrics we're gonna measure success? And here's how much I'm gonna charge at the end of it. And if you get me something by next week, I can start next week. And getting that so tight of like, here's the idea, and if you want to get on, but if you don't, total respect, but we're moving on quickly.
And I feel like the only way to like do that though is like when you sell like the vacation, like this vacation will be great, this will be amazing, but how you travel there, that is like the pain and and will take time to get there from A to B, but you kind of have to hype up the vacation, and then there is work involved, and you kind of have to highlight it because like, yes, you can make a ton of money with video if you have a following or you have already a way of monetizing it. If you don't have that, you still need the social media to have a following so that you later can sell. But man, this path will suck, but if you have a following, hey, this path is now this far. We just make a couple videos and then pitch it.
Well, right. Well, exactly. Everything you're saying is 100% right, because I think you just have to understand like what level are they coming in at, right? And it's like yesterday, I have these clients that they're really new. They're brand new business owners, and they're like, what should we do with SEO? How much can we pay you to do SEO work? And if I was going to take advantage of them, I'd be like, oh, we can do all these things. We can I'll be using SEMrush and all these things. I'll be using all these tools. And no, I was like, here at the very beginning, since you guys know your industry, just write blog content. I can post on the website for cheap. But you then are creating keywords. You're then doing stuff, and we'll just keep doing that for a little bit, and then we'll readjust later. And I think us as creatives have to do that too. When you have a micro-sized client, a mom and pop business, you need to just think of a foundational level for them. I've seen a lot of creatives that get upset. They're like, no, but there's a process. There's a way to do it. I'm trying to give them like jet fuel. And I'm like, yeah, but they don't have a marketing budget, man. Like, do you have a marketing budget? A lot of the time when I turn that to a creative, like, yeah, well, what's your monthly marketing budget? Would you pay a couple grand to some guy to do something per month? Probably. So like you need to maybe just tailor it down. So that's what I do. I try to have 3 different zones, man. The micro-sized, I have where I want everybody, which is like your small size
so organized.
And then I have the huge corporations, which I keep like small. I don't want a lot of huge corporation work either, because that's scary in its own right. Very competitive in right, and a lot of the time is NDA. You can't even put in your portfolio. If it's true, like Fortune 500 company, you can't even promote it. So
that is like the annoying part about NDAs. With that being said, like I feel like there's like levels to everything. The one level is like the monetization, and then the other level is like how big is the following, and what medium you use and how you use it. But my goal is basically to like help them generate revenue, because like I know a lot of things how you can do it, but the implementation, that is like the point. Who's writing those 50 blog articles? Who's producing like the 200 videos? Who's producing the long form video? Because like there's different strategies, but there's also different tools to monetize. There's so many ways. It's just like it needs to be built and done. But if they already have something really good, I'm just trying to like see how can I, with my knowledge, build something around them that has the most impact, because like sometimes it's as easy like, hey, I get you a sponsor, you have a big following, and that's then the easy part. But if you don't have the big following, it's really hard to get a sponsor, or if
Yeah, well, it's good because like what you just said there is your goal is to identify a business goal and what is the creative solution to achieve that business goal. So for them, it's to get sponsorships. You know how to get sponsorships through creative solutions, and so I think that's it too. Is always defining the business goals. I've had a couple like friends and clients recently that have been like, because it's really funny. I'm sure you've had this too, where you had this kind of this friend that's not really in our business or in the creative world, and they're like, Fitz, how do I pay you for something? How does that work? And I've had that a lot of people recently ask me like, Sean, how do I like pay you, or how do I get you involved? I'm just like, I'm having a weird time of how do I ask you to prom? Like, how do I get you to do this dance with me? And it's interesting because I'm always like, well, first off, and what I always tell them is define what the business goal is, and you could have, you don't have to have a business.
I mean, it sounds always complicated business goal,
but just have a goal. Like, is it to get more followers? Is it to get a product out there? Do you have an event you want people to know about? Is it you just want to get your name out there more? So it's just like figuring out what those things are, and then come to me with those goals, and then I'll come with solutions. And that always gets them like, okay, and they do. They come back after a month, and they're like, okay, I have this thing that I want to promote, and I'm like, well, there we go.
Yeah, I feel like people who are like focused, so it sounds like now a little bit contrary, but people who are focused on a business goal, they forget about like, what is the cost of this goal, because they don't think about like, I want to have now 5,000 people on my website so that I make like X amount of sales, but they don't. I'm like, how much do you want to spend for it? All the requirements you don't think about. They just think about goals. And that is like I feel like the wrong approach. Like, it's like feeling like, what is the solution? What is my business solution? So that they know, like, for the solution, I need a video agency, a website, I need a funnel, I need to have like promotional campaigns and, all that stuff. But everybody's just like, no, my goal is like 1,000 subscribers. But what does that mean?
Yeah. And part of that is okay if it is just that. I think some people, it just feel nicer and to feel more connected. I can see that too. But exactly of like, why though?
Why and how and what will you do?
100%. And now I would caution, don't get too much into that when you're talking to clients. I've actually seen some clients get turned off when you start to question it too much. So I will say that with the caveat of like, this is where doing more listening than talking comes in, where don't question their stuff when they're like, well, I want you to go to the website because that's going to sell more cars. And even if you don't maybe believe that, but you may need to, there may be a little bit of you being like just trusting that may be the answer, that especially if they already have those and stuff. So there's a lot of that too. I have to say, I've talked to creatives that get very combative. Moments of like, well, why? No, that's not it. That's not the right way to do it. And you don't want to go around a wrong road, but you don't want to be an obstacle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I personally like, I go then back to like my approach. Like I'm doing my thing really weird because there's like, oh yeah, I'm very passionate about it. So I will not go about the why. I'm like, but you could do this and I would do X, Y, Z, And then I explain how you get there with the things I can do for you. But I will still do what you request me to do. I'm just like not sure what they will do for you. But if I were you, I would do X, Y, Z because I know that would work. But if you cool with that, let's do it, So I don't even ask the why because I don't really care about their opinion because they're probably wrong, or they don't know as much as they should know because like could be the marketing person, and if that person says and knows, that's cool with me, but they have to give me the instruction. I can only give instructions on things that I know and how I would do. So I will not like ask like too many why questions in a way. I just like, we're doing you or we're doing me.
Well, no, exactly. So when I say like, ask them, why are we doing stuff? I think that's fine. But when they give you an answer, accept the answer. Be like, okay,
we take the money. Here's how you send it.
now, if it's doing him a disjustice, if they're going to lose money, if it's not the right route, I would say, try to say no, try to lead them down a different route. I've had to do that, in the web design world, there is definitely people that walk into my door and are not ready for the sticker shock price for a custom website. right? I do explain to them that, like, just like phones, there's different levels of design, right? And maybe you need to go out and you get the burner phone from the grocery store. That's me
from the plug.
But right now you're talking to the iPhone 20 XL, whatever, and that's maybe not where you're ready for it.
Yeah. I mean, like, I had, like, saying no is important. I did it, like, the last 2 weeks twice, and oh gosh. It's good. It's good and bad at the same time, because, like, I had, like, a client where they're like, I want to put in the $1,000 price tag, the $2,000 lifetime price tag. I'm like, you don't want to put that in an ad. You cannot justify in one 30-second video that, hey, this product is $2,000. Let's book it. Nobody will do that. You probably need to create, like, 20 videos educating the client on, like, why this product is great. You will not see Apple like, hey, only 3,500, buy the Apple Vision Pro. You're like, no, people are talking about how cool it is,
Right.
and, like, check it out on the website, and there you get a justification, and then you get the price.
100%. And a lot of the time that is, no matter where you are in the creative world, that is part of your goal, is that a lot of business owners come in very logical. We need to get the data in first, get the facts in first. And it is your goal to be like, no, the story is what makes the why. And it all starts with why. Even in my branding workshops, I always am like, it's not what you do. It's not even how you do it. It's why you do it. And that's where we go. So don't worry about the price. Don't worry about stuff. It's the why. Why do I care about the Apple Vision? Why do I care about these things?
Yeah.
So it's good. I think we a lot of creatives, they operate in a very sensitive realm, where we are very sensitive to the energies around us and how people feel and, like, what people want. And I think that's where our goal is to give that sensitivity to our clients, because they don't have it. They don't know the language. And even if they know a little of stuff, go back to our earlier topic about, like, they know enough to be dangerous. They know enough to Google and use AI.
Yeah.
But it's that sensitivity that we have that still gives us value over all of that.
Yeah. The client world's so much fun.
So
what is the plan for the weekend, Mister? I broke my back.
Well, we're gonna do housework, because that's what you do when you break the house.
Wait a second, you didn't pull up. I even changed the setup here. I have the table on an angle so that we can sit more close to each other, and switch it up and everything. And this Mister here,
well,
it's suffering so bad. Huh?
No, it is. It's pretty bad. Like, right now, I'm a standing desk right now, so it is pretty bad. But it's okay. I'm throwing my girlfriend into the hard places, so no worries.
As you should.
I'm going to be in the easy space supervising. It's just that. Yeah, maybe it's President's Day, so got to do his President's Day sales. All right, so I'm.
That is a thing, President's Day.
Yeah,
I did not even know.
So we maybe get a couch. We're looking at that. Got a
okay.
couch that needs replaced. So all these fun adult stuff, man, just fun adult things.
I mean, spending money is always fun.
Yeah, it's always fun. But yeah, I got lots of new work too. So it's also just organizing and being like, okay, we have like 4 or 5 websites. Let's kind of plan these out.
Okay.
Yeah, things are good though. Things are really great. And I just got to say, like, this is probably the first time in my career where I got a lot of work coming in, but I'm keeping up with it. Invoices are getting paid. I'm happy. I'm rocking.
Yeah.
How about you? What are you up to?
Yeah, filling up the pipeline, so that will basically backfire really nicely, because, like, I will load it up and then I get all the clients, and then I'm like, now I need to do all the work. So I'm already did good progress yesterday, but basically the next 2 days, DMing, cold calling, doing like all that stuff that I usually do, networking, reaching out, spec work, all that stuff.
Spec work, that was gross. Don't say that. Don't say that on air.
I mean, like, you kind of need to do it, like, if I don't do it for myself, why would anybody else hire me to do it for somebody else? And currently I'm training, like, my editor, and she's doing an amazing job posting. But yeah, so it's not the same stuff that I would do for a client, but it's interesting. So I'm like, yeah, I should do hooks like I do by my clients. I should do XYZ like by my clients, versus like doing like a half-ass, like, oh yeah, let's just talk about random shit and just upload it, because the effect is different. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think the verbiage is everything. The message is everything. So yeah, 100%. Well, that's awesome. Well, that's good to hear, man. Oh, and one thing I'm also doing is I'm leaving Evernote. I guess I didn't talk about that, but
you did last time, I think.
They doubled my price. So so Notion is giving me a way to kind of leave. So I'm finishing that up, and I've got a real nice looking Notion now. It's got all the client files, even got their little logos. It's like beautiful.
I kind of want to have you over for that, because I want to know about that. The other thing that I learned about is school. Apparently, that's like one of those tools where it's like, okay, you can build communities and learn things, sell things, and whatever. And all those tools, and like, I think the other one is Asana or something like that. They're building environments. And then you're forced into this environment, and you're forced into that subscription model. You're forced to, that ecosystem. And it's really hard to get out of it. It's kind of funny that you're already trapped in one of those entanglements, and I obviously don't have any of those entanglements, but that comes with the downsides of like not being organized. And I'm just like, dang, now you have to make decisions about what you use. Right now I'm learning to use the Apple Calendar, and I'm like, this is nice, but I'm like,
yeah, it's weird how you get locked in. One thing that I've always thought about getting locked in, then we can end this before we keep going, but is Spotify, right? How much of my music is locked into Spotify? Things that if like they ever deleted my account for whatever reason, or it's somehow like ever so much music that I would never even know existed, it would literally be gone for the rest of my life. I mean, we're talking hundreds of hours of music that would be gone.
Yeah.
And so I'm locked in there, right? How do I ever leave Spotify and go full on into Apple Music?
Yeah, it's kind of what I do sometimes with like clients, they don't want to store the footage. I do store the footage. I never delete usually, so it's like they're kind of locked in with me if they want to keep the footage unless they buy it, but it's like building that ecosystem.
Yeah, I know. 100%. Every creative out there will tell you that we're all hoarders of our old files. We're just so scared to delete that file from 15 years ago because the second you do, the client's going to call and be like, hey, that file.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, do you have to make revisions? A year later, I'm like, can't do it, my man.
Yep, exactly. That costs extra. It's been fun, everybody. Thank you for another great episode. Subscribe, like the podcast, and have a good one, guys.
Yeah, have a good one.
Peace.
Boom.